Hello scrappers and planet lovers, Tin Man here with another video. So I recently received a couple questions about window air conditioner units and more importantly, how much copper can you get from one of these units? The great thing about air conditioners as well as your dehumidifiers that I just did a video on, they are loaded with copper. This one I've already broken apart. I have all the copper separated, so I am going to weigh it for you, factor in the prices, and show you how much copper there is in one of these units. There is a great amount in there. However, before you open these, they are actually illegal to cut the copper tube because of the liquid inside of them or the gas. So you do have to get someone professional to come in and flush it. I do store them up and I will do it all at once. I did check this, however, before I scrapped it to see if it works. I have found a number of them in good working condition, and you could definitely sell them for a lot more than the scrap value. So that is always the first rule. Check to see if something works before you scrap it. This one unfortunately didn't work, and what I'm going to do is talk about the different parts. I do have a scale here. I'm going to weigh it for you, price it, and show you how much of a profit I get. The nice thing about these window air conditioners compared to a dehumidifier, these have a lot more tin shred on the outer shell. Dehumidifiers are mainly plastic bodied, so that's great that I have more scrappable tin here, less going to the landfill. The grill here is plastic and there is some styrofoam. The plastic here, depending on where you live, this is actually thick enough that I could actually throw this into my recycling bin. But again, it all depends on where you are. Styrofoam, where I am, even though it may have the recycle logo on it, it is non-recyclable here. So again, it depends on where you live. So here is a little bit of garbage. Inside of it, there is some plastic. But the nice thing, as I said, is the base as well as the shell here. Once I put a magnet to it, it does stick. This is going to be tin shred at my scrapyard and currently going for about 8 cents a pound, as well as the bottom. Before I actually took it apart, the entire unit did weigh 40 pounds. So you can bring them in. There is a category at a scrapyard whole. But again, once you figure this out, it's only about 3 or 4 cents a pound. So you're going to make a lot more money separating the items. And for sure, the amount of copper in here, totally worth taking it apart. I'm going to start actually with my grill. These two grills, they come out one on both sides. There is a larger one and a smaller one. These at a scrapyard are going to be classified as copper aluminum radiators. And when you have these things, they do always have some steel connecting it. You do have to make sure you take the steel off. As well, they always have some really nice copper coils on it that you see. You do want to take these off as well and put these either into your number 2 bin or your number 1. So I've already taken these off. I just take a angle grinder and I just grind down the side. Easy to pop off this metal. So again, a little bit more tin shred here. And these right now going at a scrapyard in London, Ontario are going for $1.05 a pound. And I have right here, I have 4 pounds, 13 ounces. So over $4 right here, which is awesome. You do also want to make sure when you cut them open, I like to put them on a piece of newspaper or an egg carton. There may be a little bit of liquid inside of them still and just prevents any puddles forming on your bench or your floor, so it definitely absorbs it. So 4 pounds, 13 ounces right there. As mentioned, I have some really nice coils here. These are the coils that come off of it, and I have them in 2 different categories for a reason. These all can have 2 different categories. These ones right here that you see, you can see there is soldering on that. Because there is soldering on this copper, this is going to be classified as number 2 copper. These ones, however, are free from soldering. I will throw these into my number 1. And I will get a comment from someone, because there is oil and residue inside of them, they should all be number 2, which is correct. But what I do is I will soak these in my vinegar solution. I will get out the liquid out of there or the oils, and I will definitely be able to put these into my number 1. So any soldering that is free from, that's not painted, there's no soldering, so I am going to classify these as number 1. This one is number 2, as I said, because of the soldering. So going to weigh these. This is my number 2 coils, and look at how many I have there. I have 4.6 ounces, so almost, or a quarter of a pound. And number 2 copper right now is going for $3.43 a pound. So almost, 90 cents there, if you will, give or take. So there is some number 2. The number 1 I have right here, I have 1.5 ounces, and that is about 25 cents more, so $3.68 a pound. So, it doesn't sound like a lot yet, but it will add up, so just wait. So number 1 right there, and those are just from the 2 grills. The other great thing about the grills is you will find some really nice tubing, copper tubing, that connects those grills to my compressor. So here is all of my copper, and I have seen a lot of people bring it in like this. They will get number 2 price, and this is very easy to upgrade. As you can see right here, there is some soldering. There is some soldering there, but there is also a lot of number 1 or potential number 1 once you clean out the oil. So easy way to maximize your profit. All you really have to do is cut in front of the soldering, take the pieces of soldering. This little piece that my hand's in would be number 2. This little piece would be number 2. The rest of this would be number 1. So it's a great way to maximize your profit. It takes very little time because copper is easy to cut through. As well as this one, look at these really nice coils. You've got some really nice number 1 once you clean it as well. For this experiment, I am just going to put it all as number 2. Just to see what I have. So there is going to be 7.95 ounces. So a half a pound right there. So $1.70 just from the coils that go from the transformer to those radiators, which is awesome. I'm going to put this over here. Getting to my transformer, the transformer is the money load in my opinion. Transformers, there are some big ones. These ones you can see, they come in 2 styles. This is your large cylindrical one. There are some on smaller units that are your more spherical ones. And these you can bring into a scrapyard whole. It's about 15 cents a pound. I think this actually weighs, I think it was 15 pounds as is. So definitely a good weight to that. However, they are loaded with copper. And the reason I have 2 in front of me here is because on my last video about dehumidifiers, I did mention one item that you do want to check. Every compressor has one of these arms on it, and you do want to make sure when you cut these coils, you get as close to the metal that you can. See, there's copper just connecting it. Easy way to figure out where the copper is just put a magnet to it where it connects. Obviously, you have to cut just above that to make sure you get copper, not metal, because they will steel. They will downgrade you as dirty. So I had all the copper here. This arm was off of a dehumidifier. As you can see, it does stick. So this is metal. The one that I opened actually for this air conditioner, I put a magnet to it. And as you can see, I have the same armature right there like that. But this one, put a magnet to it. It does not stick. I've scratched it. You can see this is copper. It's actually just painted black. So you definitely want to make sure you check these. This is a nice piece of number 2. I am definitely going to put a number 2 because there is soldering. But more importantly, because it is painted black, it is going to be number 2. And just this armature alone weighed 3.5 ounces. As well, I do have a couple little parts to it that connect it off. Again, like I said, get as close as you can to the bar. Soldering these little pieces. They all add up. There you go. So 4.25 ounces from that, just from the outside of the compressor. They do also have sometimes a copper coil. There is going to be a little bit of copper in these things, but I'm not going to factor those in yet. But I will talk about the wire in a second. The compressor here, huge motor in here. And I do actually have separate videos on removing or opening compressors. Sorry, why do I say decompressor? I do have videos on compressors as well as removing the copper from these. So I will add the links below to check out if you're interested. But this motor, again, here is the beautiful number 2 copper inside of that. Look how thick that is. So I'm going to add this up. This is all number 2 because of the oil on it. It's coated. Again, I could try putting this into my vinegar solution, but it's still going to have some residue as well as has some coating on it. So this is number 2. And just this alone, I have 1.15.2. So 1.15 pounds of number 2 copper there. Adding up the arm from that, so 2.34 pounds just from the compressor there at number 2 price. So again, as I said, $3.43. So I have $6.86 just from that, which is awesome. Definitely better than getting the compressor weight price. So very great item, but again, you definitely want to make sure you check and see if this is copper. So that is great. I also have at the back there is a wheel like that. It contains another copper motor, a smaller one, but still a great one. Opening that up. Here is my smaller motor. I've already taken it apart. And again, as I said, I have videos on taking them apart. Very easy. This is going to become tin shred. As well, I should have also mentioned the rest of this compressor shell is still going to be going into my tin or shred. So I am getting 100% scrappable material from it. Just definitely better getting the copper than bringing in the seal hole. So here is my unit. Here is all the number 2 copper from that small motor. You can see these motors, you do want to check, do the scratch test to make sure it is copper. And beautiful number 2, this weighs 9 ounces right there, so over a half a pound. So again, $1.80 for that, which is awesome. And the other thing, once I opened this, there was a control panel. The control panel I do want to quickly mention because there is some copper in that as well. This control panel faceplate is aluminum. Unfortunately, it is glued on there. This is going to be dirty aluminum. But again, this will be about 15 cents a pound. There's definitely probably only 2 ounces here. But the faceplate is tin. And inside of that had 2 levers like this. These levers, you can actually see this one here, as well as this one. I've put a magnet to it. I've also scratched it. You can see the scratch there. That is clean brass or yellow brass, so I want to make sure I take those out. As well, on the back of this one, you can see that is copper, so I will pull that off. But inside of this, there is definitely going to be a little bit of copper, probably some silver contact. So I'm just going to very quickly have safety glasses here. Just break it open with a hammer. If I can find, there it is. I'm going to do that just to show you. Okay. And I'm doing it gently because I don't want plastic all over the place. But inside of it, look at that. You see some beautiful brass, beautiful copper in there as well. Every one of these copper are going to have a small dot you can see right there. Those are actually silver contacts. So there is a little bit of silver on that I will take off and I will put them into a little vial. But these are all copper prongs. And I am not going to obviously weigh it for this experiment, but definitely some copper there and some brass. So you do want to make sure you open up these control panels. As well, the last thing on here, you have your very thick outer appliance wire. I do see some people, especially if they don't want to tackle an air conditioner, I have seen some people, unfortunately, that will just cut the cord off here, and drive off, which obviously, if the air conditioner works, it can't be used again unless someone rewires it. But these wires are also worth copper value. This at a scrapyard would be classified as 40% appliance wire, and currently is going for $1 for a pound. This is almost a pound. It's nice and thick, very heavy, but there is also some other wire in here to upgrade. This wire that you see here is actually going to be 60% appliance wire. So when you are scrapping appliance wire, there are two categories, and it is a good thing to separate because they are worth different money. The rule is scrapyard will look at copper to plastic ratio and copper recovery. Because this wire has an outer coating of plastic as well as 3 additional coated individual strands, there is more plastic, less copper recovery. So this is 40%. This wire right here, all I'm going to do if I have my snippers here, very easy, just going to actually cut these wires here. And I'm going to put this wire into my 60% wire because this is only 1 coating of plastic. And this is actually going for $1.84. So 80 cents more for this. And one rule, if I could suggest, make sure as you are scrapping, you go along and separate it as you're going. I unfortunately made the mistake at the start of putting it all together, and it took me a couple hours to separate it. So do it as you're going. But this is your 40%. Here is some 60%. As well, inside the wire that connects to your compressor, as well as the other stuff. This right here would be my 40%, but watch this. All I gotta do is slip that arm off. Here is some beautiful thick copper. Look how thick that is. Look how nice copper that is. This is gonna be now 60%. I do wanna make sure I take off these prongs. And some people do actually strip this down for number 2 wire. In my opinion, just looking at how flimsy it is difficult to put through my wire stripper, but again, some people will strip it. For me, I will just take the 80 cents increase and put this into my 60% appliance wire. So there are definitely little pieces that I've cut off. It all adds up. For this experiment, I am not going to weigh it because, it's going to I'd give it probably about a pound, but it's definitely all over the armatures. If it doesn't slide out of these arms, it's probably because there are some zip ties to it, but definitely some great number or 60% wire as well as your 40. So the appliance wire, I'd probably give it, a pound. So $1 for this. Probably, once I factor all this in, half a pound for all this wire, so let's say 70 cents for that. But definitely some great copper wire throughout this as well as your dials that have some really nice copper as well. Unfortunately, like I said, here's my fan. The bottom of this does have some really nice tin shred, and just to weigh this bottom, I'm curious now how much I have. I have not actually factored in. This is actually only an 11-pound scale, so I'm actually not even going to be able to use this one. But if I use this one, just to see how much weight I have here with my tin shred, and these will be tin shred because they are individual plates. Even though it looks like a sealed unit, you can see some of the plates coming off. But just from this, we'll see. Here's the other one. I have over 20 pounds here already of tin. Okay, and then the bottom I had here, I gotta factor this in. Last thing, I have 26 pounds of tin shred there. So at 8 cents a pound, still getting money for that. Less stuff obviously going into the landfill, but some amazing number 2 copper from my transformer, my small motor, the wiring, the grills, okay, and another device or appliance safely diverted from the landfill or what could have been landfill. So again, thank you for the question. Great option, great item to scrap. Please make sure you take it apart safely. Think about your environment as well, obviously. But again, thank you for the question. Please keep them coming. I will answer them the best I can. But yes, dehumidifiers and air conditioners, an excellent source of copper. Copper as a scrapper's world is our scrapper's gold. It continues to stay at a good price, and definitely a very well worth unit taking out that copper. So thanks again. Please comment down below, like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Tin Man out.